Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a great program here for you tonight, one that has been long in the making. I promised a very long time ago that Dr. Ubaldus Raymond would be coming on here to discuss government, economics, and his eventual resignation as Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce Industry. But unfortunately, we did not have him. I am pleased this evening to introduce him to you once again, where we have decided that we're going to discuss everything related to government and also his eventual departure and his taking up this post in the Turks and Caicos Islands last year. So welcome, Dr. Raymond.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to have you. Good to see you back home.
Thank you.
All right, all right. Let's start with some light stuff. How is the TCI?
The TCI is doing very well. We actually made a surplus this fiscal year, and we are hoping to. In fact, we have forecasted to have another budget, not budget, but fiscal surplus this coming year. And the prospect in terms of economic growth looks very, very promising.
Now, the TCI, what is the mainstay of that economy?
Tourism is number one, and you have followed by financial services. These are the two pillars, basically. And you, to some extent, you have agriculture, not that much. Yeah.
Now,
fisheries, rather, I should say. Yes.
Now, you're looking at an economy that is based on tourism and financial services, more financial services than we, obviously, but a lot of tourism, you know, kind of mirroring our economy. How is it that the TCI was able to recognize or realize a surplus when St. Lucia, for example, and other islands in the Caribbean have not seen that, and you see that economies all around the region are suffering, and the IMF knocking on every single door in the region?
Well, Clinton, you'll have to understand, in the last 3 years, in fact, from 2009 up until last year, elections, November, I think 9th it was, or 11th, you had an interim UK administration. And they actually came in and they had stringent reforms, all kinds of reforms you can think about. And you had a lot of fiscal discipline in terms of expenditures. And so they were able to curtail a lot of the expenditures and had a more or less a fiscal plan put together that actually ended up with having the economy having a fiscal surplus.
No, there must have been a number of cuts during that process, because I'm sure that the UK administration would not come in if they did not realize or feel that there was just bad fiscal policies and how am I to put it? The execution of those policies was not working in favor of that government or the local government. Where did they have to cut, and where did they cut? They
had the personnel costs was a major. They had a cutback in the civil service, and that was a major one, basically.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about what you're doing there and how you have assisted in helping that economy cope with those tough economic times. But let's return to St. Lucia, and let's start from your entry into politics. You came down, you left your job as a professor in Florida to come down to contest the elections of 2011, and we know the outcome of that, so I'll not rehash that. But you have not spoken on the issue of your resignation. You have not spoken on how you felt within the government until now. This is your first sit-down interview on that matter.
Not quite.
Not quite. You have.
Yeah.
Well, I've not heard anything in detail so far. But why now, though?
Well, I did before. Not now. It's not now. I did before.
How long ago did you speak on it?
Well, at the point of resignation, I sat down with I think St. Helen, Choice TV, and I just gave a briefing of
Right, but you didn't go into details of...
No, there was no need for that. I don't think there was a need for detail. I mean, it was very simple. I believe that the whole nation knows that I ran Castries North against the Prime Minister at the time. I lost the elections. The Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, provided me the opportunity to be Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce. At the time, I felt that I was not being able to contribute the way I wanted to contribute. I believe I was being underutilized. And I spoke with my wife and about the decision that I believe that I will have to depart from government. Of course, she knows everything, she knows the details. It's a very simple matter. It is a matter that I was not comfortable, I didn't feel I was being utilized, and I decided to move on. It is a very straightforward thing.
No, but what led to this discomfort? You know, your feeling of being ill-fitted for that particular post within the government.
Well, Clinton, honestly, I don't want to go into detail as far as that is concerned. To me, this is history. I'm looking to the future.
But I mean, for us to move to the future, we must realize or get a handle on what the history is, and I'm sure that a number of people out there are hoping to hear from you tonight. You know, some of the reasons that led to your resignation as a parliamentary secretary.
The bottom line is, I felt I was being underutilized. That's the bottom line.
How did you expect or want to be used by the Prime Minister? We know your background. You're a developmental economist. Yeah. You worked in the public service in the U.S. in Washington as well. And what were your expectations coming in? Win or lose that seat in Castries?
Well, first of all, in my resignation letter, I thank the Prime Minister for allowing me to serve in his government, both in opposition and in government. This was a wonderful opportunity for me. I believe it opened my eyes and allowed me to see things from various perspectives. I believe that my tenure within the government as Parliamentary Secretary would have just been that and nothing more. I believe in progression. I believe that if you start at step 1, you should be moving to step 2 or step 3 or step 4. And based on my meeting or interaction I had with the Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, it didn't seem that way. It looked like it would have been more or less a horizontal shift during the 5 years. He is the Prime Minister. He decides what he wants to do with his ministers or Parliamentary Secretary. I respect that. And I didn't feel that this was the right thing for me as a professional, as someone who can contribute more much better or much more in the role that I was placed in. And for the sake of this country and for the sake of my professional development, I believe the right thing at the time was to have resigned and move on.
When this first hit you, when it first occurred to you that any shift within the government would have been horizontal and not vertical, did you approach the Prime Minister on that? Did you have a conversation with him?
No.
Why not?
Well, because I mean, he's the Prime Minister and he decides what he wants to do. And he's an intelligent man. I think he knows what is best for the country. If he decides to keep me, have me more or less a horizontal shift throughout the 5 years, that's his prerogative. But I have a right to decide whether or not I should accept it or not. And I chose not to move ahead with it. Hence my reason for resigning.
Now, it has been whispered, and you have indicated it in some circles as well, that as a developmental economist, you know, in terms of the policy that government was developing coming in after a 5-year hiatus from the government, to put it that way, you presented the Prime Minister with policy statements on, well, just give him some ideas, which were never really considered. How is that true?
No,
I see you shaking your head.
no. I never provided Prime Minister of any policy statements. In fact, I didn't make any contribution to the manifesto. None at all.
I'm talking about the period leading up to the budget last year, where there are certain ideas that you had, obviously, and you were not included in the formulation of those ideas and presentation for the annual budget 2012-2013 then.
Oh, I think I understand what you're saying. I have not been part of any cabinet meetings or briefing. I think that's what you're referring to. Even when the budget committee met with the cabinet, I was not part of it. In fact, one of the folks that was actually leading that committee was very surprised that I was not part of that committee. I think that's what you're referring to. Am I right?
Right.
So that's different from the policy statement.
Well, I mean, there was some talk about you presenting some ideas to him that you were hoping would have been included in the preparation of the budget. So
these words are not mine. I mean, you hear everything out there. But these are not my words.
Well, you had to clarify some of those things so that we have a better understanding of what it is and what eventually led to your decision to leave and seeing that. But I think we're due for a break. We'll take our first break. Don't go away. Our conversation with Dr. Ubaldus Raymond will continue right after this. We have a lot more questions to ask. Stay with us.